In my last video, I discussed MrTLexify's relationship with his ex-girlfriend and the recent allegations regarding him grooming a minor. If you haven't seen that video yet, or if you just aren't caught up with the recent news, I would recommend watching that before coming to this one, because the events I'll be talking about today chronologically follow what I discussed before. Just like how I did in the last video, I will be putting documents containing both claims from both parties so as to properly represent both sides, and I will be blurring photos of the victim's face if I do include them so as to respect their privacy. Anyways, in this video, I also want to make it clear that I am mostly sticking to information provided by the most recent document, and its contents are quite damning. Also, there may be slightly graphic content, so fair warning. This document picks up following the victim's 18th birthday, after which Lex became more public with his relationship of 3 years. She claims that at this point her life had started to go in a particularly downward spiral, with many aspects of her life declining and her needing treatment from a psychiatrist at her school. Following her birthday, Lex would visit her in California from Canada, and one night she looked through his phone and found out he was texting multiple other girls, to which she reacted by confronting him and breaking up with him for a short period of time. She says that she would continuously try to get away from him, but would always end up going back, usually due to her feelings toward him, which she sometimes described as pity. She states that this is an example of her developing a sort of Stockholm syndrome. From this time forward, despite her being 18, some aspects of his grooming would remain, shown by DMs like this one. In 2021, Lex would once again visit California, but this time while the two were becoming intimate, she would accidentally bite him out of fear. To help explain this, she brings up the fact that Lex was 6'1" and she was 5'5", so there was a significant gap in their size. Lex apparently claims that this was a serious fight, however the two would continue to live with each other following this night. In March of that year, the two would get into a serious verbal argument, which escalated to the two fighting over a weed tray before she would throw the tray at him, which resulted in him turning around, tackling her, and choking her. She claims to have many witnesses who can testify that saw she was physically abused by Lex, although there is no photo evidence of her injuries at the time of this recording. Lex would send her multiple love letters seeking her forgiveness, although I'm not going to analyze their contents aside from him apologizing for choking her, but if you are so inclined, feel free to read them for yourself. Lex would continuously provide for her, which she claims was a way he would manipulate her into continuing to stay with him. Similar behavior to this was seen in the last document, where she said one of his tactics was taking her to Disneyland, but now he would continuously remind her that he would provide for her had she stuck around, and would go as far as buying her an art tablet in order to convince her to forgive him. Eventually, Lex decided to move back to California for 3 months out of the year, as he had yet to obtain a visa, and during this time is when the victim claims this is when her relationship with Lex officially started crumbling. In public, the couple looked fine, and they would do things like stream together, reinforcing their image. However, things would change when she eventually found out that Lex had been caught and exposed for DMing someone who was, in quotes, barely legal, and Lex would reportedly text several other girls following this, including wishing one girl a happy 18th birthday when he was 24, with no current explanation on how he knew the girl prior to this. Lex was in contact with several 18-year-old girls, primarily through Bumble, where his profile supposedly touted his status as a YouTuber, which he would continue to back in DMs like these ones. Things would continue to escalate after she discovered this, as she quickly confronted him and accused him of targeting young girls, to which he would reportedly lash out by wrapping his hands around her bare neck and threatening to kill her. She states that the only way she could get him to stop was by telling him that there was a phone recording this, which he does confirm in his document here, despite no such recording actually existing. After this altercation, she does provide a photo of bruising on her leg caused by Lex being on top of her, and at this point claims that she regrets not filing a police report. There are a decent handful of DMs she shares in her documents, which if you want to know more I would recommend reading, but I am not going to display them. If you somehow haven't seen them, I would also recommend looking at the DMs Lex shared on Twitter, which has absolutely made waves and are quite shocking to say the least. In September 2023, Lex sent a cease and desist to silence the girl, and no longer continued to pay for her rent, cutting communication with her for the first time since she was 15 years old. He would also try to contact her mother and inform her of the actions he was taking, especially legally, supposedly in order to garner fear and potentially silence the victim. Once again, I'm not going to show these, but feel free to look at the document in the description. According to her, Lex has lied about having a lawyer who is looking into the quote-unquote case. And I put case in quotes as, according to her, there is no case and no police report in existence, and instead Lex is bringing this all out in the public eye after getting called out by another YouTuber about things more closely related to Call of Duty Zombies, which is an entirely different can of worms, and I'm sure you can find another video explaining it. Anyway, the document closes with an explanation for the video going around on Twitter, which she clarifies was in 2022, following Lex's second serious episode of physical abuse, which is why she acts so harsh, as he is apologetic and honestly pretty pathetic. She also explains in the final paragraph how he has pretty much ruined her entire life by permanently altering its trajectory, and how this whole interaction doesn't really benefit her, and how she never really intended to try and ruin his career, despite the fact that could really be the outcome of the events at hand. That is all the document covers, and now I'm going to rebuke a couple of the claims made in the comments of my last video. There were a few people who mentioned the fact that Lex had contacted her parents and maintained a good relationship with her mother, and that somehow makes Lex's relationship okay. I just want to say that I do not think that this detail makes Lex's actions excusable, and it barely changes the severity of this situation, if at all. Another detail brought up is the fact that in Lex's home country of Canada, the laws are different and that somehow excuses it. But I just want to say that all of the events that supposedly transpired, most if not all of them, took place inside the United States, and if you are visiting the country, I would imagine that it is expected that you are abiding by the laws of said country. I mean, in some countries the age of consent is as low as 12 years old, sometimes even lower, and I don't really know what to say to you if you think that's a reasonable defense. Anyways, that is mostly it for what I wanted to discuss, and hopefully this news doesn't dampen your guys' day too much, as it certainly dampened mine. But don't worry guys, Black Ops 6 is right around the corner. See ya.
That's because men like us have a duty, a responsibility, to use our talents in the service of others. Even if they don't appreciate it, we have to do what's best for those beneath us, whether they understand it or not.
No, you're wrong! You are everything I wanted to be! You just threw it away!